Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Car guys, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. But I despise street racers. I don't get it. I get racing. I get, man and machine coming together, technology, engineering, mechanics, all that crap. NASCAR, cool. Sprints, cool. But on the street where innocent people are just trying to get from point A to point B, that is one of the most evil things our society produces. And what do you mean evil? Like it's even 399 people died in the last year that they had statistics from street racing crashes. 399. Let me ask you this. Do you think more Americans are killed every year by a AR-15 or street racing? Oh, no, not the... Yeah, street racing is more deadly than these guys. Now, it's illegal. I get it. But this story from Grand Prairie, I fume when I read stories like this. Two idiots, each had their own Charger, one red, one white. Hey, it's a cool car. I wish I had a Charger. But they're street racing. And a guy crashes into a Chevy Traverse carrying a family of 5. 4 of them are now dead. And the 16-year-old teenage son is fighting for his life in the hospital. Now, I'm not saying unfortunately, because every life is precious and every death is a tragedy, but the driver that was street racing that crashed into the family, oh, he's alive. He's going to be fine. But there's a mom and a dad dead. 2 of their 3 kids dead because a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old wanted to see whose car could go faster. Was it really that fun? You killed a 13-year-old girl, a 6-year-old little brother, a mom and a dad. You deserve to go to jail for the rest of your life. You deserve to go to jail the same as if you shot them with a gun. Now, he's facing charges. He's probably going to be charged with manslaughter, racing on a highway, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. All right, fine. I don't know if we need to change street racing into like straight up murder or just say, all right, we'll not call it murder, but you're going to get penalized the same. You kill 4 people. You kill 4 out of 5 people in a family. You erase an entire family tree off the map. Bye-bye. I mean, I might even go so far as to support the death penalty. If you're street racing, if you're on a public street where innocent people are and you're street racing, not a blocked off street, not some runway or not some abandoned parking lot, but you're on just a street that everyone else uses and you kill somebody street racing, I'd be open to the death penalty for that. I'd be open to the death penalty for this guy. What if you're like the grandparents, or what if you're like the aunt or the uncle of these kids, and that was your sister and brother-in-law and nieces and nephews that got killed? What do you think a good punishment would be? What do you think justice would be? That man took out 4 branches from a family tree that only had 5 branches. He's just going to have to do a few years maybe, and he gets to have the rest of his life. He gets to see his kids grow up. Yeah, I'm thinking death penalty. I'm just about talking myself into it, but I know I'm cool with life in prison for street racing. It's one of the dumbest things that happens in America, and it's so easily preventable, and it's so dangerous. And look, not to mention the 399 people that were killed 2 years ago in street racing. That's not even counting all the injuries. It's not counting all the damaged property. That's not counting, scaring the crap out of people. It's not counting all the other ancillary damage. We're just talking about deaths here. 400 people, and now I'm rounding it up, but about 400 people die from street racing every year. How come this doesn't get more attention? This seems like a really bad deal we have going on here. So the question is, should street racers be sentenced like murderers? 800-288-9227. I say yes. And I don't know the nuance of the law, but let's just say there's a crowd standing over there and I shoot a gun from a decent distance into the crowd. Now, I don't hit anyone. It just hits the brick wall behind them and they're all safe. There's charges that start there and then they escalate. If you hit someone, then it can be more than just like reckless discharge of a gun or aggravated assault. Now it's aggravated assault and battery. Now it's aggravated assault and battery with the deadly weapon. And so it sort of escalates up to there. But I think we should have something similar for street racing. Like at some point, this just escalates and it's not like, oh, well, this is a manslaughter case. No, this is straight up murder. You're going 100 miles an hour on Beltline. You should be treated as a murderer. It's so unreasonable. That action is so dangerous and so reckless. It's beyond what I consider the level of manslaughter. There's like negligent manslaughter or whatever different degrees of that. This is whatever the top degree is. Maybe we should just call it murder, or maybe there's some term I don't know because I didn't go to law school. But these street racers in Grand Prairie that crashed and killed a family of 4. And it's not just the guy that was behind the wheel, the ding dong that he was racing against, jail. The guy that did the crash, life in prison, maybe even the death penalty, the guy he was racing against, something similar. Dude, imagine if they were anywhere in your family. Imagine, because, I have a sister with kids. My wife has a brother and married with kids. What if they got wiped out by a street racer? What would I think should happen to the guy that was driving the car? Dude, I would say death penalty. I'd be Googling how to tie a noose right now. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. The next question I'm asking you, should street racers be sentenced like murderers, especially when they kill people? This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Back to the phones we go. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Before we got the foreign policy update, I was asking you about these street racers. Killed 4 people, 4 out of a family of 5. Mom, dad, the 2 younger kids. There's just one teenage boy that if he survives and comes out of the hospital, he's lost his entire family. And I think just for his sake, just for justice for him, you do that, you should get life in prison, if not the death penalty. What do you think? John and Keller.
We got away with it for
You're going to have to turn off that radio. John and Keller, you're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Now we're just going to kill you.
All right. Is he paying attention? John and Keller.
They want the death penalty for the street race.
Is he talking to me?
No, sorry.
All right, John, you're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Hey, how's it going? So as far as like the street racing goes, and I was actually having a discussion with somebody, my mother, to be honest with you. But so the problem is back to society is where we don't have consequences for our actions. And therefore, now all of a sudden we want to hold accountability to the fullest law, like where we want the death penalty or prison, and for making a split decision on driving at erratic speed, on a split decision of somebody else, challenging one individual or another. I didn't say it's right or wrong or and reason. In ideal world, we would all drive at a moderate speed of what the posted speed limit was, and that would be it. And then you really probably would lower traffic and all the other stuff. But that's not the world we live in. So on that being said, I don't see that there is a purpose to condemn somebody to the fullest letter of law of having them basically murdered because they made a decision that did end up killing 4 people. But even if that was my own family, one of the things we should be is remorseful and forgivable of other people.
So do you think any crime warrants a life sentence?
I do, but and I say I do, and to the degree of but. And I really like to go back to the analogy of like corporal punishment. Corporal punishment back in the day, schools could enforce corporal punishment. Schools could whoop or discipline your children as see fit. And until we get to that analogy where if people are on the same page of the exact same respect and moral standard, then I don't see that it's very hard to hold somebody to the fire if they don't know that the fire is going to burn. Yeah, see,
I'm trying to nail down, John, whether you're against anyone being punished that harshly or just in the street racing setting.
Like a criminal, another thing. Okay, so
because you asked, like, what good is it for society to just lock them up? Well, should we do that for murderers? Should we do that for intentional murderers or rapists or whatever?
So to answer your same question, okay, if somebody was to use the facilities out in public and there may be children around and they get pulled over or caught by the police, now they have to register as a sex offender. Now they didn't kill anybody. They didn't do any harm like that. But, there's like somewhere like statistics was saying, you all said was like 400 deaths a year, 400 deaths, 500 deaths, round up. Let's even say 1,000 deaths a year over street racing. What's the population of whatever you're taking that statistics off of.
330 million.
330 million. What's 500 on 330 million? Like, and I say that because, like, what else is out there that it is more dangerous? Like, even people on the internet, or even us as adults, handing our children internet devices that have no adult parental discretion, and they can watch and do whatever they want.
Yeah, I think you're having like a parallel debate here. Let's just stick with the car racing. You don't think they should get anything harsh? Well, let me ask you from an affirmative side. What's the harshest penalty you think they deserve for killing this family of 4?
Same thing as murder is.
Oh, okay.
25 years to life.
Okay. Sorry, I just ran out of time here. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227. You heard from John and Keller. What do you think should be the consequences for drag racing that turns deadly? I like the analogy of shooting into a crowd, because if you do hit someone, you can say, well, I wasn't trying to shoot anyone. I wasn't even aiming at anyone. It was an accident that someone got hit. Yeah, but you were doing something so dangerous, any reasonable person would realize that if you just, flick your wrist an inch in either direction, people are going to die. I don't know. Is that a good analogy? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Sparker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Listen, do you have any Democrat friends? And I mean capital D Democrat friends. I don't mean little d, people that vote for Team Blue. We're having a hard time getting some Democrat spokesmen on the show. We call them. They say, yeah, we'll get back to you. Or, yeah, we'll check our schedule and let you know. And we've been reaching out. And there have been a couple people to come on the show. But, it doesn't have to be a perfect balance. It doesn't have to be like 50-50. Half my guests have to be from Team Red and Team Blue. But I would like more than like 4 from Team Blue. So if you know anybody, tell them, hey, James Show's looking, the Democrat party of Dallas County or Collin County or Tarrant County or whatever organization you got going on. It could be the Democrat party of I Hate James. I think I go back and I listen to the segments where people disagree, and I like them better. It's not as fun to do, but I think it makes good radio, and I think you get tired of just hearing my side of the story the whole time too. But right now, the topic at hand is this street racing. It broke my heart to see that some idiots racing on Beltline crashed into a SUV, or I'm sorry, it's called a crossover now. Crashed into an SUV. There was a family of 5 in there. 4 of them are dead. There's a 16-year-old boy that if he survives his fight in the hospital, is going to wake up with no mom, no dad, little brother dead, little sister dead. And I think about that 16-year-old boy, and his life is just ruined. Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be your worst nightmares? You just wake up and your whole family's dead? So what's supposed to happen to these guys? I read in the local news that they're facing charges for manslaughter and racing on a highway and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I don't know if that's harsh enough. I think these guys should at least get life. I'm leaning toward death penalty too, because it's just so dumb. It's so dangerous to be street racing on Beltline. You didn't even go out to the middle of nowhere where there's no traffic. You're on Beltline in the 4th biggest metropolitan area in the country. David agrees with me. He said life without parole for street racing sounds good to me. Cool. Let's ask a caller. Cheryl in Louisville. Cheryl in Louisville, you're on WBAP. What do you think should happen with street racers?
Well, I think that they have every intention of going to someplace that wherever they went, they knew exactly what the chances were, and they took their lives and everyone else's lives and threw them away. And I think that they should get everything that's coming to them and more.
Which, does that include life without parole, death penalty?
Absolutely.
What would Cheryl give them?
I would give them life without parole and let them live the rest of their lives knowing that they've taken someone else's life away.
Agreed. It's so reckless. It's so dangerous. We got to send a signal, because, I mean, this will never stop, but I think we could minimize it. I think we could have fewer than 400 people die from something that's so easily preventable. Oh, my God. I'd be so mad if I was in that family. Let's stick with the phones here. Marshall in Bedford, or is this Bedford and Marshall? Marshall in Bedford, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Thanks for taking my call. A minimum of vehicular homicide, I don't know that you could actually get murder because they're not out to kill that one person. But vehicular homicide, loss of a license, and a minimum 10-year prison sentence, and never get their license back ever again.
Well, people can drive without a license, so only 10 years?
Well, okay, let's make it 25 or 50.
Well, look, I'm not saying you're wrong. This is a subjective question, so there's not really a right or wrong. I'm just asking you how severe you feel it should be.
Well, as strong as the law would permit, I would be all for that.
Okay, but
look, that the law that sets the parameters.
We're omnipotent on the James Show. You can change the law to exactly what Marshall wants. You put on the black robe, you have the gavel, you get to decide what the sentence is. What would you choose?
All right, let's just say life in prison, no parole, and a minimum of vehicular homicide.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I was trying to nail you down on. Thank you very much.
All right. Can I say one other thing?
Of course. Go ahead, Marshall.
The thing is, how can somebody street line on Beltline Road? That's a heavily traveled boulevard, and you're lucky if you can do 40 miles an hour between the stoplights. Well,
it depends on where you're at on Beltline. And Beltline is it is quite a storied road. There are parts of Beltline that feel rural, and then most of Beltline is somewhere in a strong metropolitan area. But
I'm thinking Beltline and Addison.
Yeah, Beltline and Addison is choked. There's no way you could street race on that. But we're talking about over in Grand Prairie, which isn't exactly middle of nowhere territory. It really is that dumb. It really is that bad. Thank you for your call, Marshall. 4 out of 5 people in this family died because of these idiots. All right, coming up next, I got a super treat for you. You're going to love this. Jim Verdi from the Dan Bongino Show. He's the producer for the guy that's on before me, Dan Bongino. So he's got a book out that kind of tells some secrets, some behind the scenes action from one of your favorite shows, and gives you a little glimpse of what my job is like. But also I'm going to ask him about some of the golden rules that they have. They've developed on the Dan Bongino Show. It's great stuff. And also on top of that, did you know he's a local? Did you know he used to be on radio here? Yeah, you're going to love all this. Jim Verdi from the Dan Bongino Show, coming up in 5 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.